Okay, well, we may as well get into it. Good day, everybody. Welcome to Something to Scream About, the podcast that is talking about all things metal music and distorted views, I guess, and other things and beyond. This is episode 15. We have a special guest today, which we'll introduce in a little bit. If you are seeing the video for this podcast, you'll notice that we are in separate locations. My nose is full of a certain particular type of sinus infection or something that's going on, causing me to not want to give Cam some sickness. So,
and I have a sty in my eye.
I can see it from here. Is it your left eye? Yeah. Oh my goodness. So yeah. So that's
never had it before. So
that's causing you trouble as well. Well, lucky that we have an audio version, so others can just tune out and listen to our soothing voices. So yeah, on today's show, today's episode, we want to go through, first of all, a couple of things housekeeping wise. So let's talk about what we've been up to in regards to music. First of all, do you want to go through how our EP is going, Cameron?
Yeah, so pretty much, guys and females and all those in between, we have fucking nearly done this EP. So pretty much what happened was, towards the end, we had about 8 to 12 songs, and we've spoken about this in other podcasts that, musically we could write certain music because we've been writing and producing music for so long, but vocally I just wasn't happy where I was at vocally to give the songs justice. And as a bit of a perfectionist and not wanting to release music that's like, we really want to release our new stuff as polished as it can be. I went out and I found a new vocalist and another guitarist, which is awesome. And we're going to be introducing those two boys on the next podcast, and that's going to be sweet. Now, I'm still doing vocals, but I'm going to be doing backup screams, and I'm going to be doing my rap still because it's a big part of our sound. But the new guys doing some really solid screams, and we're going to be doing some pitch scream stuff, some Architect style, North Lane style. It's going to be really cool, guys, and the guitar riffs are going to be more complicated, more intense, more technical. But still groovy and just still our sound. So it's really going to take our music to the next level. So I'm really keen.
Absolutely, man. It opens up possibilities for us left, right, and center in terms of having found somebody that can provide a different sonic voice to work with yours. Something that we were kind of missing, and then we've spoken about previously, trying to aim for a certain sound that we wanted to hear, but not being able to execute that or all of that. And having to redirect, but now we sort of have somebody that we can build towards working into those sounds.
Yeah, it also helps people stay in their lane a bit too, because I was sort of juggling 3 different roles: a producer role, a vocal writing, as well as performance role, and a guitar writing and guitar playing role. So I was a bit dabbling in multiple different things, and I think now, especially with the new boys, I feel like we're clicking really well with them. It's really cool. And just everyone can sort of stay in their lane, and then we can come together as a unit and write music together. And it's not so just like one-sided, which is really awesome too. And we've already got 3 or 4 ideas down that are like very modern metal technical riffs. That's a lot more. I think the broader audience in metal's gonna like this stuff a lot more than the niche rap metal. Hopefully this can get us a lot more of a following and fans too.
Yeah, for sure, bro. So exciting opportunities. I suppose we'll go more into that when we meet those guys. So that's sort of how our EP has changed, but we've kind of been able to include them and squeeze them into the previous body of work that we've been molding. That's gone from like 8 tracks now down to 4. And maybe expanding like here and there with different singles. Like we don't know now that we've got these new weapons of choice, so to speak. But possibilities are endless. So they're hopefully going to squeeze onto this new body of work and make some waves, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's the aim. That's the aim. So yeah, I suppose let's dive in now and show everybody the interview with our guest. So we sat down last week before I was sick with our special guest over a Zoom call like this. And you and I were actually together, so we managed to be in the same room, which was good. Our guest is Kris Peters. He runs, owns, and I suppose operates Heavy Magazine, heavymag.com. He also, as he goes into, as you'll hear, runs a fair few tours and manages some bands and generally is involved with the scene quite heavily here in Queensland and Australia broadly. So we were excited to get him on because he has a lot of knowledge to share in terms of being able to view the industry as a whole and the scene as a whole and be able to kind of see bands coming in and out, ask the top industry dudes all the right big questions and kind of get a general oversight of what it takes to make it in this kind of industry. So yeah, without further ado, here is Kris Peters.
Kris.
First of all, mate, welcome to the podcast. We've got, for anybody who doesn't know you, this is Kris. We've got Kris from Heavy Mag. I guess, first of all, Kris, can you just give us a bit of an intro to yourself and what you sort of do in the industry? Because it's been, I think, roughly about a year since we last spoke, and you sort of helped debut and launch our band and our project on your magazine with our propaganda song. So we were super grateful for that bit of a spotlight. And so what kind of things do you do with the magazine? And tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, easy. Well, basically, I do most of it. I bought Heavy about probably 18 months, 2 years ago. And since then, I've sort of pretty much taken an active hands-on role with it. Like the guy I bought it from previously, he'd sort of only treated it a bit like a part-time job, like he had another stable, permanent job he was doing. So I decided to immerse myself in it fully and treat it like a real 40-hour-a-week sort of job, and it turned into a 60-hour-a-week type of job.
Wow,
I do everything, mate, from the interviews to post the news pieces to the back end of shit, which was pain in the ass, but I had to learn it, to basically everything, all the everyday run-ins of it, advertising.
Yeah, right. Wow. That's, I can't even imagine there's so much that goes on with just one project, let alone having to cover the entire industry as a whole. So I'm sure there's so many different things that go on. So you said you took over the magazine about 2 years ago. What point was it at when you took it over? Was it something that was already established as the sort of supporting what it already kind of is, or have you taken it to that next level to start kind of implementing different things?
Well, we'll start off with Heavy turns 10 years old this year, so it's been going for 10 years. Australia Day 10 years ago was the first issue of Heavy came out.
Wow, so, there you go.
There's been a couple of owners. Yeah, no, it's good. So I'll give it a bit of a plug now too. We're having a massive 10th birthday celebration in Brisbane on the 20th of August.
Got bands like wicked.
The Poor, Frankenbach. There's 15 bands playing anyway. Midnight at the Mansour Tavern, and we're doing another one on the 24th of July down at Mode's Desert Clubhouse, headlined by From Crisis to Collapse. So there are a few things we've got coming up.
Wicked.
Yeah. It was already established when I bought it. Like, it's been through a few different owners. I've been writing for them for about 5 years. So before then anyway. And I had myself a nasty motorcycle accident, got a little bit of money out of it, and found out Heavy was up for sale. So I said to the old mate, if you sell it to anyone, you sell it to me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so you already had your foot in the door and you're already working for them, so you're already knowledgeable on it. So that's awesome as well to hear.
Yeah, I was knowledgeable in certain aspects, like the interviews and stuff. I've been interviewing for about 20 years, so I knew what I was doing with that. But I'm basically computer illiterate. I'm a dumb fuck. I haven't to learn how to the whole back end of the website and how to put things on, and just little things like getting the size of the photos the same so that they look nice and presentable. There's a lot of stuff to learn, but luckily the guy I bought it off, Carl Newman, he's still with me now. Like, he still helps out with a lot of things. He's guided me through the whole process and gave me tips. Even last night, like, the website went down and I'm like, the fuck do I do? Help. He had it up and running again for me. So big shout out to Carl for
wicked. No, that's wicked. So in terms of like
what we've seen from you, like locally in the Brisbane scene, how do you sort of see the scene as a whole? Because we've spotted you out and about at a fair few gigs, and it seems that you're fairly keen on supporting kind of local shows, local bands, and you're always, like you just said, you're putting on shows. You always got that heavy mag is in the door with everything Brisbane scene. So is that kind of mainly because you're up in Queensland, or do you spread around, or?
I do this because I also I manage a few bands as well. Like I do a lot of things on the side. I tour manage a lot of tours, and I manage a few bands. I've got bands in Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria. So I just, in the last month, I've travelled to Sydney for a weekend for shows. Then I went to Melbourne the next weekend. Then I went to Cairns the weekend after. So I sort of see it around a lot of the place. But when I took over, a big focus for me was concentrated on Australian bands more so than the internationals. Like we always had a weekly digital magazine that comes out on Thursdays. But I pretty quickly introduced an Australian artists only Digimag. So every Friday that comes out now as well, and that's just Australian bands in it. So there's some of the bands that might not have featured in the international Digimag before, just through time. It's right, because a lot of people want to see the big bands they know about and stuff like that. And I found a lot of the Australian bands were not being neglected, but they were being favoured, or sort of overlooked in favour of the bigger ones. Yep. So I wanted to start the Australian only ones so that the smaller bands and the emerging bands had a bit of a voice. So it started with that. But yeah, I get out to as many gigs as I can. I manage a few Brisbane bands and help out with a few Brisbane bands. So I've found, I moved down from Cairns probably 5 years ago. And the local, I can speak for the Brisbane scene anyway, it's become a lot stronger from what I've seen. Like, I know I put it down to, it used to be a lot about competition, people not supporting each other's bands. And I put that down probably 8 years ago or so. There was a lot of Battle of the Bands competitions going around where the prize was to win money or to win a gig at somewhere, and the scene started getting competitive after that because you didn't want anyone else's band to succeed.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it sort of had a bit of a flow-on effect from that. But lately you see, like all the bands I manage, like I say to them, if you're playing at a gig, you get there from the first gig and you stay there till the last band finishes. You got to show support, and it starts from within like that. I think bands supporting each other.
I agree. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. We're very big on that. That's a lot of the reason why we started something like this with the podcast, to try and give things back and share knowledge and kind of help everybody out, because we've spent hours scouring the internet looking for things to try and help us to make it and take it that next level. And half the time it's everyone's keeping their secrets close to their chest, and like you said, doesn't want other people to have the success. So we're sort of really big on that. One thing you said, like about sort of noticing local bands and even up to the big bands, you would have seen a whole lot of people's progression from small bands to some making it and some not making it. What are some do's and don'ts that you have seen bands do that might help to make or break their kind of music career? Just like anything sort of rough. Is there any ones that stand out? Yeah, that's a pretty good.
Don't be shit cunts.
Yeah,
that's a good
one. Yeah, that's a given.
Big thing I tell all bands I'm involved with is like a lot of bands, they want to get the big support, they want to get the big shows. Got to do groundwork first, like promoters and people in the industry, they look to see if a band's been active on the scene. Like, so you've got to be out there touring. That's the big thing. Like, get out of your hometown, go up to Cairns and Townsville, do a few shows up there, go to Melbourne, play your smaller shows. Like, people aren't going to take notice of you until they know your name. Like, I think a big thing for me was during COVID, I took about 3 of my bands on separate occasions up to Cairns, and we did a Far North Queensland run of shows, and people were saying to me, like, what's the point of going up there? Everyone's sitting down. You're going to have 50 people at your show. And it's like, well, you show me a Brisbane band that gets 50 people at their show regularly anyway down here. And it doesn't happen. So we went up there, and there was a couple of bands like Disgust and Piston Fist, a few of them. We went up there a few times, and every time the shows grew because the people up there remembered you and they appreciated the fact that you went up there when no one else would. So I'd say that's the big thing. Touring, like it's an expensive thing to do touring. But if you I advise bands to put money away every week, like if you got 4 members of the band, yeah, that's exactly it. So you've got that kitty behind you. If someone says, bang, can you do this? You've got no dramas for doing it financially. So definitely get out there, tour, be active on the local scene, support other bands, definitely. When you're at your gigs, when you get off, go straight to the merch desk, let people know off stage just now I start chatting with you, because you'll find no matter how big or how small you are as a band, there's always another band that's going to ask your advice. And you'll have someone might be at that show and they want to know how you've done something, and all of a sudden that makes you feel a bit bigger too, because someone's asking your opinion on something, and people want to do that. So make yourself available to your fans and keep your social media presence up. That's another thing they
That's why
take
they're
notice of
doing
that.
tutorials a lot as well, just on all the stuff that we figure out, whether it be because me and Jordan both produce. So just a lot of tutorials on YouTube and mixing and routing and, on stage gear, cabs and amps and axe effects and all of this stuff that took us bloody ages to figure out. Yeah, that's why we always do that as well, because it's the same sort of thing. Just if there's any information we have we can give out, it's like we'd appreciate people doing it for us, so we might as well do it for other people as well, So it's good. I think the scene's been amazing since we joined in. One comment I've always said is that I was in the hip hop scene before I joined the metal scene, or like got into the metal scene, and the metal scene is so much better. Like people are nicer. Like the shows are better. Like, I mean, the music better in my opinion. Like it's just I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So
in general, everyone's just been a bit nicer, and that culture, like you said, is less competitive. It's more, and as you've said, putting on 14, 15 bands on lineups, it's about everybody getting together and enjoying metal music and being able to play and support each other's stuff. And I totally agree with the sort of touring and the grinding, getting it out there and playing some shows. It's sort of it's part of the hustle, it's part of the grind. So we're excited to get back out there and do that. The next question I kind of had was based on kind of your movements in around the scene. Has there been any sort of like kind of surreal moments for you where you've kind of taken a step back and gone, whoa, like that was really special? And I don't mean necessarily like, oh, holy crap, I got to hang out with so-and-so. It's more like, was there anything that you really took away and went, like, this is why I do this, or this is what it's for? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me personally, like doing interviews, my big thing is when you have a band say to you, that's a good question. Because like you can imagine some of these people are interviewed 10 times a day. They've been, someone like Anthrax, for example, they've been interviewed 10,000 times over their career. But if you can ask them something that engages them and they stop to think about, to me, that's the connection that you made. And that's so I always strive for that. Like with my interviews, I always write different questions for every interview. I do my own research, and anything I find interesting about a band, I'll ask them about, because if I find it interesting, chances are other people are too. But so there's another thing is there's no such thing as a stupid question. Like just because you know something doesn't mean the person coming up to you is going to ask. So either don't be afraid to ask questions, or if someone asks you a question that is obvious to you, don't be an arsehole and just go, it's like they're asking because they genuinely don't know. And people are they're all at different levels in this game, but everyone at the end of the day is on the same level because we're all up to the same thing. But people's understandings and knowledge is at different levels. So I think that's one thing. I know I get off on seeing my mates happy. Well, if I've like on the weekend, I helped Massic and Odious jump on the King Parrot show in Brisbane, and I was at that show and just seeing them happy on stage. Like that's all I want, I'm a bit selfish too, because I get to go and I get to hang out with them when they're backstage and stuff like that. So that's always a bonus. But I've always got genuine joy out of helping others get somewhere, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a real kind of truth to that rings through everybody, that you're really kind of giving back and actually seeing that joy and success and helping someone achieve that is really special. So like that's a lot of the reason why we wanted to reach out to you, because we saw that Heavy Mag and you individually were doing a lot in the industry to try and support people. So we kind of really wanted to shine a light on that and bring you on for that and to have a little bit of a chat about it. What can we I know you touched on a couple of these events, but what can we expect from you and Heavy Mag in the future? And this sort of, if you want to plug anything else or
I suppose with Heavy Mag, eventually I want to get back to doing printed magazines, probably 4 or 3 times a year, like every 4 months.
That'll be wicked.
We were doing them because I know before I took over Heavy, like my biggest thrill was seeing my name in print. Like anyone that writes wants to see their name in print. And with COVID, like it's a lot of people don't know, but to do a magazine up and put it out, it costed about $20,000 per run magazine. So you've got to have that advertising come in and without the shows, you haven't got the advertising from the big company. So
Yeah.
I'm looking, hopefully, probably by around Christmas, I'm looking at going to start them off again every 4 months. So that's one thing. And they're going to have a large Australian component as well.
Cool.
So that's one thing. But one thing I've realised with Heavy too is that it's a brand. You know, it's a name. Like Heavy's, it's not something I'm in to make a lot of money out of, because as being in a band yourselves, you know you won't. But it's the brand and the opportunities that come off that where I think I'm going to go well. So I'm looking at in the new year branching out in international touring. So I've got like bringing bands over, and I've got some contacts I'm making overseas. So
cool.
Sending bands, and I've already started booking tours to Japan for bands, like I did that before COVID. So I've got an agent over there that I book all the flights and accommodation and transport, and go over as tour manager with the bands. And so that's one part of Heavy what I want to branch out into more, is the other side of the things that come off Heavy. Like the Heavy brand has got to be strong, and people have got to know what it is to be able to do that, to take that next step.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, well, hopefully we can shed a bit of light on the brand for our small section of the audience. And yeah. So basically, Kris, man, that's pretty much kind of where we want to leave it. We just wanted to have a nice, short, sweet chat with you, just to kind of, like I said, shine some lights on what you're doing and the good things that you can share with us. So, where can people find you other than Heavy Mag? Where can they find you and your sort of contacts? Where would you like them to go and look if they're looking for you?
I've actually, that's another thing I've sort of done too. Like when I first moved down from Cairns, I sort of made a rule that if anyone ever reached out to me and asked me for advice, that the least I could do is answer them. And Rich, I say, I think you guys approached me something and asked me a question once, and I replied to it. And in the beginning, it was easy because I'd only have 1 or 2 people a week contacting me. But these days, like I can go to bed at night with no messages and wake up with 20 the next morning, 15 off people I don't know. I'm still trying to answer everything, but I'd prefer if people contacted me via their Heavy email, which is Kris, Kris, @heavymag.com.au. If it's something specific, and like if you're a band or an individual that wants something, just in the subject line, just put attention, Kris, because like I get upwards of 500 emails a day, and I've got to filter through those, and I put those into categories of news categories and things like that, and I do occasionally miss them, but typically for me, just put capital letters, attention, Kris, in the subject line, and I'll do my best to get back to you.
Sweet as. Well, that sounds great, my friend. We really appreciate your time today. Thank you for jumping in with us, and hopefully we'll catch you soon on the circuit.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for inviting me on the show. It's different to actually be interviewed than do the interview.
Yeah, well, I thought we'd turn the tables on you.
With what you used to do, keen to catch your show too.
Thanks, mate. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. We'll chat to you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right,
buddy. All right, and we're back. Just as easy as that.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that was Kris, everyone, from Heavy Mag, and that was really awesome to speak with him. Get his insights. How he's involved with so many different sub-genres of metal as well. It's not just sort of one niche thing, and it's just cool networking, man. We're getting people on the podcast, guests and stuff. It's not just like, oh, we're just reviews and we're doing this and we're doing that. It's like it's really cool to just talk to other people, and hopefully we can start getting some drummers on or guitarists on, and start doing some more stuff like that. So
very cool.
Pretty much to just touch on a few things that he spoke about there, or we spoke about there, was mistakes that bands have made, and I think that's a good little segue for just us to teach some insight of mistakes we've made. And if you're in a band out there or you're looking to start a band, here's some things you should avoid, or maybe not even avoid. Here's some things you can do to help the process be a lot smoother.
Yeah, learn from us.
And then we can talk later on about the differences between live and studio recordings a little bit too, maybe. But a mistake or, something to be wary of, I would definitely think, is don't just have people in your band that can play an instrument just because they can play an instrument. You know what I mean? Like, but he's a guitar player. We need one. It's like, just because you need one doesn't mean it has to be them. And what I mean by that is, don't have someone in the band that, I want to say chemistry wise, personality trait wise isn't a good fit. If you're clashing with them as a human being, as a person, if you really want the band to succeed, you're going to be spending long periods of time with these people. And
Yeah.
if you can't generally be yourself and be around them for long periods of time without, not liking them as a person, it's probably not going to work out in the band sense. And obviously there's going to be toleration and, not everyone's going to completely 100% be best buddies, but if they're generally just getting on your nerves every second, and it's like sometimes you might just have to make the call of, trying to find someone who's a bit of a better fit,
Yeah, it's true, man. It's like both juggling the personality side of things and then juggling, the ability to work within the band. It's hard when you get lost in the personal stuff, and it's all about business, and
Yeah.
it has to operate as a business in some sense, because if you want it
Needs
to
to.
succeed in this kind of world, as like Kris touched on, like, there's so many avenues and aspects that you have to cover. Seeing it as a business and a brand and being able to be a good person and go out to shows and kind of spread your brand, you want people that are going to be on the same page and
Yeah.
kind of representing
You
that
got to leave your
in a way
ego at the door as well. Like,
fully.
you're going to get ideas are going to get shut down. If you can write a riff and it's going to get shut down, you can write drums and it's going to get shut down. You could do vocals and it's going to get shut down. Sometimes it's not all about where you want the music to go. And I've learned this a lot just from when we started the band to like now, is I'm a lot more open to synths and backing track sort of stuff. When at the start, like early days, like 2-3 years ago, I wanted it to be very raw and I didn't want a lot of that stuff in there. But just the way that modern music's going, you sort of need to be open to, more, I wouldn't say EDM stuff, just stuff that's like,
It's just more heavily produced these days.
yeah, more just more influenced with if stuff that enhance what you're doing. As long as it's enhancing what you're doing and not replacing what you're doing, you're still playing your instruments live. You're still doing your vocals live. You're still playing everything live. Like, it doesn't take away from your performance. It actually adds to it, and that was definitely something I had to learn. Another thing I could touch on would be that, people need to learn to speak their mind. And we all have different ways of expressing ourselves when we're upset, when the music's not going in the direction we want. Or maybe you feel like your ideas are getting shut down too often, and you want to do more or whatever. So, but there's ways to go about it. So we've all had days where, like, I've raged at the boys and told everyone to piss off and, and had just shitty days. But the other boys have had shitty days too, and we've all gotten each other's faces on the nights drinking and stuff, and borderline punched on with each other like that. It generally happens, It's music is a passionate thing, and if you're not getting passionate, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. But just knowing that before you get to that point, if you can just speak your mind without being rude and don't bottle it up, it helps ridiculously. Like.
It really does.
Ridiculously.
It's kind of expressing how you feel early. It seems a lot of people will go, oh, you don't want to sit there getting muddled in. Oh, you said this, and then like it made me feel all this. Like, it's not about that. It's just being like,
no.
if in the moment, you're getting worked up or whatever, just do what you need to do. Take 5. Sorry, boys, just got to take 5. This is just like too much for me right now. Or had a rough day today. Can I just not do today? Just communicate with each other, and that kind of comes.
If you try to force it, it's gonna just open up more problems than it can solve. So
True.
Whether today, like Jordan's not here today, right? Because he's borderline sick. So because normally we meet up together at the studio. But let's say he wasn't sick, and let's say Jordan just wanted to have the day off because you had just say you had a crappy day at work yesterday, and you're just like, bro, I just can't be bothered today. I need a day off.
Yeah.
No worries, man. And but if you had tried to force it, then he's coming here and he might be in a bad mood, and then I can see he's in a bad mood. It puts me in a bad mood, and then we're not going to get any good music done because it's just shitty energy.
Very
like
true,
people's
bro. Very true.
energy like feeds off each other, and being in a band, especially if you go on tour, man, that's a big thing for me. Is like, you can all make music in a city because you're all most of the time not really there. But if you go on tour, you're going to be within 10 meters of each other for hours and hours and hours in a bus or whatever.
Exactly.
So being able to just express that you're having a shitty time and you want to just be left alone, or if if that's not the case and you want to do more, then express what you're feeling don't ball it up and then just explode like freaking 2-3 days into the tour.
Because that could be right at the wrong moment when.
And we've done that. We're speaking from experience. We've literally done that. All of us have done that. Some of us haven't exploded, but they've just disappeared for fucking 4 weeks and not talked in the group chat. And it's like that's just their way of like.
That was me, man. That was me early on, just shelling away and just kind of being like, I'm just if it's not how I feel it should be in a way, then I'm like, I just need to be out for a bit. But I wasn't communicating as well back then, and these are things that we've learned. And like working, as we've spoken about, working within a group and a team, it's more like there's so much to balance, as I was saying before, about between the team and the personality side. So you're right, making the choice about the band members, we've had to really it's not raining and shitting on our previous members because they've brought and started what we have done, and I think that's really important. But it's more now like we're on this sort of kind of trajectory where we're trying to find like-minded people that are going to be finding the right kind of fit. And it's okay that things don't work out because you can still communicate separately, friends and business in a way.
It's like having two different puzzles, man. Both of them, if you have two different puzzle pieces, they're both a piece of a complete puzzle. And just because their puzzle piece doesn't fit your puzzle doesn't mean that they don't belong to another puzzle piece where they'll complete that puzzle and make it whole.
Yeah, you just got to rotate them around a bit. Try them the other way.
It's a bit of a metaphorical way, but it's a good way of understanding. Just because you don't fit this project doesn't mean you wouldn't fit another. Everyone's got to be on the same wavelength, man. Especially if you have like two people in the band doing a shit ton of work and then another two people in the band doing not much at all. It just creates like animosity or whatever we've talked about before, and just like you're a bit like, oh well, I'm doing this, and this, but then when it comes to the money, you want an equal cut of the pay when we play and shit, and it's like, well, what about all those hours I'm doing? If we worked at the job and I was doing triple the hours you were doing, I'd get triple the pay, wouldn't I? So that's when the business side comes in, and it gets a bit sketchy. And if you want to, this is all for people that want to be in not a real band, but a band that's like really trying to make it and not just a hobby, play a couple local shows and have fun. Like that's awesome. If you want to do that, good on you, man. Music's a fun hobby and that's great. But
there's ways of doing it. Like, I suppose if you're willing to pay for everybody to be doing outside jobs, but like this is from a DIY perspective of being like, if you want to bring something to this project, it's a project. It's not just a band. It's not just you're playing fucking drums. It's like, I've got to come and go, okay, I'm playing drums, but I'm also having to think about our brand. I'm thinking about things like podcasts. I'm thinking about how we're supposed to doing all the back end of a business and get ourselves to a certain end, as are you and as are all the people that we want involved in our project. Because that kind of thing it doesn't matter if you're not the exact same skill or you're not the exact same lane. There's just all of these things that need doing in the project. So what can you hold up? Like pick up the slack in your area as best you can, whether that's in writing emails, posting social media stuff, or whatever it is, just like something that takes workload off here and there. I think is the best way to do it, DIY for us.
That's a good point, calling it DIY, because not a lot of bands don't really do that. They'll just outsource everything. But the problem with that is you all need to be constantly forking out money in this endless money pit for other people to do it for you.
And it's getting more and more expensive to do everything these days and live these days, you'll be working an absolute ton, which means you're not spending as much time on the music and progressing the band, which it goes slower. Which is also we're spreading ourselves across different things like this. We're spending time doing this instead of writing music. But it's like, that's also, we're not paying for that. We're not at work doing that. We love doing this. It's different. So we're willing to put in the hours for something that's our own project. So that's
any other mistakes that you can think of?
I think another mistake we had kind of, I guess, before making this decision to bring in new members, Me personally, because we were doing so much of all of this juggling of different roles and like we were covering so many different bases at this point, I felt like maybe the project was so much more like just me and you, and like because it was just me and you working on it for so long, and it was like this is just us and our project, and it was hard to kind of branch out and see it as a bigger thing with more people involved in the community and stuff, because it was just seemingly us all the time. So bringing in new members and possibilities and then meeting all these people through the podcast, like it's becoming so much bigger than us as a thing. And
it really helps it snowball, especially with the motivation too, because you keep seeing it progress more and more, and then bigger people with bigger names and a bigger following start getting involved, and then it's like you keep stepping stone to like bigger people, and it just really helps with being like, oh, it's working. The hard work is working.
Exactly.
Like,
it's
a good
definitely
feeling.
that, man. And it's just opened my mind up to think that like if you've got a project that you're working on and you believe in it, like actually believe in it in a bigger picture so that others will believe in it. Because if someone's coming and they're going, hey, like, you know, and I know you talk about this all the time because you're always like amping up the band to other people, and you know, someone will come to you. Like, it's important to be confident and excited and up your own.
You should be excited
thing. You
about
blow your own
music,
smoke,
man.
you know, like you have to.
And it's not. People mistake it as cockiness. It's like, no, man, you just love what you fucking do, bro.
Absolutely.
You love it and you want to share it and you want to express like that other people could enjoy it too, especially if the music is about something. Like I feel like our music is about something. When I write lyrics, it's like I want it to be about something. I'm not like, I don't write just generic like lyrics about demons in your soul or some shit like that. Like, which is nothing wrong if you like that shit, but for me, that's not my vibe.
It's not your
I
truth.
like to talk about
we're talking about our things, our
what
perspective.
I see, and and if you fuck with that, and even if you don't fuck with the lyrics, you might fuck with the riffs because they're dancey, funky, chunky, bloody, like riffs that make you want to nod your head, and like you might just fuck with the music that way, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'd get excited about that, sharing that. So
yeah, bro.
definitely would recommend people to be. You know, don't be like, oh, I wrote a song and, oh, I mean, it's a bit like this. Like, maybe you might. No, it'd be like, yeah, bro, here's my music. Check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
If
they
you seem
might
excited,
be like, this is trash.
Like, you know, when you go and see someone perform and they're having an absolute ball up on stage, same kind of thing.
It makes you have more fun.
You're
on
like,
stage.
yes,
I
they're
hate
loving
it when bands play like this.
Yeah, they're like, oh.
And then I'm like, I can't get into this. You're just standing there. Unless it's like they're playing something really technical, then it's understandable because you need to concentrate. But like, yeah, put on a performance. You're going to feed off that energy. Like I said, man, energy is give and return all the time. It's just constantly being shared amongst others. So people need to be aware of that.
Yeah. Well, speaking about that, playing shows and stuff, like Kris also mentioned in that interview about like he said get out and play some shows, you know, and like travel to these places and go and get some experience and all that kind of stuff. And he's really right about being able to gel as a unit playing shows, and that's something that we're about to, you know, dive headfirst into ourselves, juggling.
I can't wait to start playing again. Yeah.
New members and playing gigs, like, you know, because the two of us couldn't pull it off. So it's kind of like now we're redoing our set, and like there's so much fun and stuff in that, but like that's really important to be able to go through those experiences to figure out how you work as a unit. And whether that be local shows, whether that be bigger shows that you have to just, you know, you're jumping in head first. Like, it doesn't matter. Those experiences and just even rehearsals playing to nobody, pretending like we do that there's an audience there in front of us. These types of things are really important to get you gelling together as a unit, playing live.
Yeah,
Different.
I'll touch on that too, because that's, I don't know if we've talked about that before. Maybe we have, but I'll touch on it again. So when we rehearse, guys, we literally will point to a wall or something, and we'll be like, okay, that's the crowd. And then when we're in front of nobody, we're in a rehearsal room. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
But we literally will pretend that we're playing to the crowd, and not only that is when I'm on the mic and we have these little sections where we in between songs we'll actually plan out a very spaced out 2 or 3 minute loop,
Yeah.
and then I will just start talking to a pretend crowd.
Yeah. And doing all the hype stuff and whatever.
Yeah, how's everyone feeling? And you go, woo, and you pretend, like you literally fucking pretend that there's people
and it does
listening
work
and
because
screaming.
it's like whether it's placebo or not, like I feel more amped playing like that when everyone's jumping, playing the songs, boom, boom, we're all getting into it.
And then when you play live, you just instantly do what because when you rehearse for hours and hours, and you rehearse 3, 4, 5, 6 times,
the same set
in the last 2 weeks. Yeah, before you play, you're gonna rehearse so many times for so many hours before you jump on stage. So then when you do jump on stage, it's so natural and so second nature. And you're like, you've just in the last 2 weeks of rehearsals, you've been jumping up and down, you've been nodding your head, you've been doing this and that. And it's like,
enjoy the experience, and it's like, you know, that's
and then it's a flaw. Yeah, that you're not thinking about the riff, you're not thinking about technicality, you're just fucking playing the songs, having a good time. The audience is gonna feel that. And it's it just helps you guys gel as a unit for sure. And you can pick up in rehearsal, you can pick up any little things you're doing wrong too. You might be like, oh crap, like during this section of the song, I can't jump around. It's too hard. I need to play.
Yeah.
But then there might be another section. You might be like, I can jump heaps at this section. And then you sort of figure out what you can do in what songs, in what areas as well.
Yeah, dude.
That's which is cool. Like if I'm playing the dissonant part, I can't jump and play a dissonant chord because I have little hands. So I'm trying to like stretch my fingers across the fretboard.
and you might not know that, and you go straight into a gig and try and pull it off, and it doesn't land. Yeah, exactly. So
that's definitely important. So all those things, guys, for sure.
Yeah, another thing he touched on was he goes to a lot of gigs, and like I mentioned that I, would just see him out, and he tries to support a lot of stuff, and he runs and bands and things like this. So, one thing I learned being in like the dance music industry is that it really, like, to get shows or to get noticed, to get people to buy into what you're doing, you have to provide some sort of value to them, right? And whether that be, say, for example, if there's a certain venue I wanted to play at, I would be going to support events and things that they put on and trying to connect and meet with these people. So, for instance, us going to Full Tilt Festival, just chatting about the band and just being active and being there at somewhere we want to play and things like that led us to meet Stepson and get involved and get talking to other people that are involved. Just broadens our little spider web that little bit bigger. So basically going out and supporting festivals or venues or bands that you like that you might want to play with and go on tour with, go and play shows with them. Even, bro, I used to throw USB sticks full of music at the DJs. Literally. Not too well thought out and aggressive, but
fuck you, play my shit.
Play my fucking shit. And I'd be like, yo, like my music, and then throw it.
Yeah.
And like some people took it, some people got the security guard to step on it, but it's like sometimes it landed in a drink. Then it was fun.
Caught in the
10
Web
points
is actually a sick. It could be a sick fucking song name too.
It is a web.
Caught in the Web.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
Web of lies. Yeah, so that's sick. And I don't even know if there really is much to touch on studio to live playing, because I think we've actually done a podcast, now that I think about it, already on that.
We did speak
on that.
We spoke about that a little bit in terms of that. So I think that's pretty much
gelling together is a good one.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much kind of covering like what we sort of thought about mistakes and stuff. I don't know how many more mistakes we'll make, but we're not perfect, and I'm pretty happy to share more of our mistakes as we go, because it's pretty important to just learn.
That's what it's about, man. I mean, my whole plan is hoping, and with hard work and a lot of hopium, is
I've never heard
fucking
that before.
Yeah, it's like you hope so much, you just like hopium.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and just I hope to be that we can be a successful band with a good following. But instead of just being a band like, oh, they're this band and they're playing in 6 months, I'm going to buy tickets to see them. Okay, cool. But during that 6 months, how much interaction do you have with that band? I want to be that band that is constantly having so many outlets to not only talk to us, engage in us, have material, backstage stuff, behind the scenes stuff, tutorials, mistakes we've made, things
Yeah.
we've learnt, insights. Because it's something I've always wanted as this is from a fan perspective. I've always been the fan and I've always been in the audience. I've always been in the crowd. I've always been watching. I want to be up there, be the one performing, but then also I want to give the people that are watching something more than just a 1 hour set and then go, all right, bye, see you in a year.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see you in 6 months. Like,
Buy our t-shirt.
I want to, yeah, buy our merch and give us money. Like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And we appreciate that. And selling a shirt at our last show to people that did not know us, they'd never seen us before, never heard us, and they bought our merch was like really cool. And I
That's
liked
very
that.
awesome. Yeah.
But on the other end is I just want to give people more content, man. I want to be like the guy that fights for the little guy, you know, like bats for the smaller dude, and little bands that are just trying to figure it out and they're so confused about either scream. I'm going to do a vocal tutorial in the future of how to scream and how we do our screams safely, and bloody mixing to producing
Yeah.
to writing riffs to like string gauges, scale length, all the stuff that we had to learn that we had no idea about when we started, and all the information on the internet is so freaking.
There's
like,
nothing
good and
there.
bad
Everyone
and-
keeps the secrets close to their chest. Everybody's confused,
Yeah.
bro. Everyone's confused. They think that there's not enough out there. There's not enough pie to go around. There's plenty of pie. And more good music, more opportunities means more good festivals, means more things and more music and more and more and more, which is great.
Yeah.
There's no certain amount. So
Yeah.
I think getting that out of the way and just being like, look, we're going to share what we've learned, and everybody can just come on this train together and just figure it all out. Like, let's just create good music and community. Then I think that's the way to go for us, for personally anyway. So
Yeah, I agree.
sweet.
Agreed, mate.
Well, I think we should wrap it up there, man. I think it's been a good content-filled episode. So we'll look forward to next time chatting with the new boys, and we'll see everybody then.
Yeah. Right.
Stay
Felicia.
safe. Bye, Felicia. Bye.